Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? This has been a video that I have thought about making for quite some time. And I'd actually thought about just sitting on my front porch and making it. And I didn't know when I was going to make it. It's actually difficult for me to talk about. But I think the reason behind why I want to make it is important. So I was driving around today and I vlogged this morning and then I did a review video. And it's just such a beautiful day outside. And, you know, I've come to Ritchie Woods on quite a few occasions to do videos. And so I thought, why don't I just go out to Ritchie Woods, find a place to sit in the woods, and just talk about this. And it's funny because when I was a kid, you know, my house was up against the woods and I loved playing in the woods and I always felt safe in the woods. Now, I think if I was out here at night, I probably wouldn't. But it was funny because I was like walking through the woods and it's actually kind of difficult to find a place to find as a tripod for your camera in the woods. You would think that with like all of the trees and stuff, you just put it somewhere. And I actually came across this area where there's like several trees in a row around here, and I'm just sitting on the ground. And let me show you, this tree is like the perfect tripod. And I came upon it and I was like, this is the perfect place to sit, is right here. And so I just got down on the ground and I was like, I want to talk about this today. So what I want to talk about is my having social anxiety and how at times of my life it has led to me really not having very many people in my life, having no friends almost. And the reason that I want to make this video is that the term social anxiety, which is actually a diagnosable term, it's social anxiety disorder. I think it was like the end of last year, the beginning of this year, I started seeing a lot of people say things like there's no such thing as social anxiety. And, you know, on and on and on, people would say things. And I thought, and I didn't challenge people when they said that, but I thought, it's interesting that somebody is telling me that what I experience is real does not exist. And it was really disheartening, honestly, you know, to have people say there's no such thing as social anxiety, because they haven't experienced it or they haven't felt it means that it doesn't exist and it's not true. And I think, you know, as far as in talking about mental health, that's kind of like at the crux of a lot of issues with mental health. And, you know, I talk a lot about mental health, and my two things I'm really passionate about talking about are addiction and recovery and mental health, because there's just not great, affordable substance abuse or mental health treatment in the United States. And I feel like it's something that we need to keep on talking about, you know? And I think the one thing that's really sad is that often when you have these feelings, it's like you can't put words to it. It's like you can't really explain to somebody else how you feel inside, like what it means to you, how it constrains your life, how it is an obstacle in your life, how it keeps you from achieving the things you want to do, how it keeps you from living a life that you see other people having that you wish you had yourself. But yet it's very, very real for you, you know? And so when friends of mine tell me that they, you know, have certain issues, or they feel like they are depressed, or that they have anxiety, I don't feel that they have to explain that to me. I just take them at their word. And I think that's one of the things that we can do for people that are suffering, because many people don't have diagnoses with it. They don't have the money to go to somebody and be diagnosed with something. And even if you do have a diagnosis, half the time, it doesn't make it better, you know, and that's a whole struggle and a whole other line there. But I think for many years, I didn't even know that what I felt was a real thing. And I do think that there's a cause and effect to the way that I feel. So to talk about my social anxiety, first of all, the way that it feels is that and I think people probably think, well, this is interesting because you make YouTube videos, and you make YouTube videos on 6 different channels, and you talk and you put out videos for all these people to see. It's very easy, and I don't know why, for me just to talk to a camera. I really do not associate. It's honestly extremely cathartic for me. I don't really connect the filming with the people watching it sometimes. It's still surreal to me after 5.5 years of being on YouTube that there are like people out there that know so much about my life that I have never met. It's actually also one of the coolest things that has happened as a result of me being on YouTube, especially with my vlog where I share so much about my personal life. And people will share personal stories and say, oh man, like I went through the same thing, or, you know, thank you for sharing this with me. Like this really helped me understand it with my family or my friends, or hey, you know, my brother or my mom or my dad is going through the same thing, and like now I understand it a little bit better. And, you know, it's really been this connecting thing where so many people have shared their stories with me, so it's been awesome as well, you know. But so this is my story, and I'll just make this, the early part of it quick, even though I think it's pretty profound. And I don't think I'm exclusive to it in any way, but, you know, I was horrendously bullied when I was growing up, and from like first grade all the way through high school. And I can remember the day that it happened, that started, and I've told this story before, but I used to love in lunch when we would have tomato soup in the fall and winter, and you know, they would have it sitting on the tables when you walked into the cafeteria, and then we would get like peanut butter sandwiches and whatever. So I was sitting there at a table with all of these guys that had been my friends up until 5 minutes before, and one of the kids said, I was getting ready to take a sip of milk, and, you know, it would say homogenous on the side, and he said to somebody else, don't drink the milk, it'll make you gay. And I just kind of like started putting the cup down, and he looked at me and he said, not you, you're already gay, so it doesn't matter, because like you know, homo on the side of the milk. And everybody started laughing. And what happened in that moment was I felt excluded and I felt different, you know. And one of the things that's really hard for me is I look at my nephew who is 5 and is going to be in first grade next year, and I look at my other nephew who is 9, who is, you know, already been in first grade, and I think the cruelty of that, like I look back on that in first grade, and that set into motion this entire life for me. And I know there are people out there that say get over it and whatever, but that set in motion for me of feeling very different, excluded, not part of. You know, one of the coolest things for me is that people reach out to me and they ask me for cameos for their birthday, or they'll ask for shout outs for their birthday. And, you know, I say this a lot on there, but like to be included into somebody's birthday is such a privilege, because when I was growing up, I wasn't invited to people's birthday parties. And I didn't even really realize at the time that it was that big of a deal, but I just wasn't, you know. And I can remember kids coming back to school on Mondays and everybody would be talking about, oh, we all went skating, or we all did this, or, you know, we all went on a hayride or whatever. And I'm like, well, I wasn't invited. But I don't remember it like really affecting me until later and talking about it, you know. And but it was hard, and I can remember always being afraid of saying the wrong thing, always being afraid of wearing the wrong thing, always being afraid of walking a certain way, or my mannerisms, or how I talked, or whatever, because people picked up on that so constantly and would make fun of my voice and make fun of the way that I walked and make fun of something that I wore. And if I wore a pink shirt, that was wrong. And if I wore my hair a certain way, then that was wrong. And I was a kid that liked to look nice, and I was a kid that liked to have my hair look nice. And so it was like everything about me was wrong, you know? And there's actually a line from an Indigo Girls song, the song Least Complicated, and she says something about she was always doing the wrong thing. And I can remember the first time I heard that line, and I thought, God, I so relate to that, you know, just always, it didn't matter what I did, I was wrong, you know. And I carried that into high school. I've talked about this extensively on my vlog. I had like one good year in 6th grade. I had 2 girlfriends that, like, the 3 of us were very, very close, like the whole year of 6th grade. And then the summer going into 7th grade, like right before that, like all 3 of us stopped being friends. And I honestly, I did not even know until earlier this year, because one of those girls is a friend of mine that I reconnected with years later. And I talked to her about it, like, and she said, you don't know what happened? And I said, no. And was just this crazy story, but that really had nothing to do with me. And they both went their separate ways, and I came into 7th grade thinking that it was going to be another great year, and it was literally like I did not exist. And honestly, 7th and 8th grade and 9th grade, most of 9th grade were probably 3 of the worst years of my entire life, and I look at kids that are that age today, and I think, we don't really know what's going on in their heads. Like, I just didn't care if I was here or not anymore. I didn't care if I existed. I knew I didn't matter to anybody. And I'm so grateful that I came from such loving parents and I had such loving family and friends in my family, because I think if it hadn't been for that, I think if I didn't have a home to come to, and I came home to an alcoholic mother, but I talk a lot about my mom being an alcoholic, but at the same time, it was, dinner on the table and tucking me into bed, and I felt very loved. And if it wasn't for that, I don't know that I really could have gotten through that time, honestly, because the worse than being bullied was being made to feel invisible. And I felt absolutely invisible in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. I didn't have any friends. I didn't talk to anybody. I just felt completely like walking through the halls like I was a zombie and nobody was paying attention to me. And it was just, I was thankful that they weren't paying attention to me in a mean way. But at the same time, to feel as if I just didn't exist at all was so nobody noticed me. Nobody talked to me in classes, whatever. Not even really teachers, And it was just some of the most difficult times in my life. And then at the end of 9th grade, some girls started letting me sit with them at lunch, and those became my girlfriends that I had during high school, thank God. And even 10th grade, all my weekends I always spent with my mom or my dad. I never really hung out with friends. And then going into my sophomore year, I would eat lunch with these girls, and we started becoming a little bit better friends. And then I think it was the second semester of my sophomore year, there was a night that I went out with all of my girlfriends, and that was like the beginning of my social life. And thank God for those girls. I had a friend of mine, when I wrote my book, she said, you should call it Freaks or something, because we were all just a bunch of freaks that were friends together trying to get through high school. And that was true, we were, and I love those girls, and they had my back, and I don't know if I'd be here today if it wasn't for them, A couple years ago, my husband and I were in marriage counseling, so we went to marriage counseling extensively for almost 3 years, and we would have a couple session once a week, and then he would go one week and I would go the other week, but we had marriage counseling every week, if that makes sense. So there's 2 sessions a week. One week, I would go and we would have marriage counseling. The next week, Alex would go and we would have marriage counseling. And one of the things that I worked on in there was all of this, because I really hadn't talked extensively about being bullied so hard. And during one session, my counselor looked at me and he said, this 36-year-old heterosexual man in, this J. Crew shirt and happy socks looked at me and he said, I really think that you have experienced some severe PTSD as a result of having been bullied all those years. And it was the first time in my life that anybody had acknowledged really how serious it was for me, and that it had affected me all the way through into my 40s. And so when people say get over it, I had people that at my school that would say those things to me, like the dean and stuff like that would say, you just need to man up, and would, insinuate that I was the one that was starting these things. And it's the lost kids that we really need to worry about, I think sometimes. So anyway, when I started using, and in high school and definitely after I graduated, I think my drinking and using drugs really masked my feelings of not fitting in and being alone. And because I could just be rip-roaring drunk and I didn't care, or I could be medicating myself. There's this little squirrel over here jumping around, on pills and other stuff, and I just didn't care. I didn't really think about it. And I actually did. I was surrounded by quite a few people then. I was kind of the life of the party, But what I know looking back is that it was a false sense of any kind of confidence, and they weren't true friendships. They were superficial. And I know that because they didn't last after I got sober, and I didn't really hear from those people. And I got sober, and I was kind of alone. And you know, this is the thing when I wasn't using anymore, and this is something I didn't work on for years and years and years, is that I had this overwhelming sense of fear to be around people. I didn't, and I still don't, like to go into like recovery meetings by myself. I always, you know, look in the floor unless I'm coming with a group of people or it's a meeting that I go to on a regular basis. I don't like to go into new places. I worry what people are going to think about me. I don't like to talk on the phone to strangers. It was funny because I took this test last night. I was like actually looking up the definition of social anxiety because I wanted to read it to you guys. A social anxiety disorder. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it. I screenshot it. Social anxiety disorder, a chronic mental health condition in which social interactions cause irrational anxiety. For people with social anxiety disorder, every day, social interactions cause irrational anxiety, fear, self-consciousness, and embarrassment. And that was how I felt. Like, I just didn't ever want to be around people. And what happened over time was, I could be in a relationship with one person, or I could have one friend, but that was like it. And, you know, even to this day, I don't have a lot of friends. I have two, maybe, like, we have a good couple friend, and then I have my best friend, and I have some close friends, but it like takes me a lot to really trust and allow people in, and I don't feel guarded. I don't think people care. I don't think people want me in their lives. I believe that I feel like a nuisance to people, and I have felt like that a lot. And what happened through the years was this overwhelming amount of fear. It's interesting. I wish I could find this test. Let me look it up really quick and see if I can find it. I wish I could find this test that I took last night because social anxiety test, because I realized how much I have grown in the last couple years. And so, oh, I don't think this is it. Hold on a second, maybe. No, this isn't it. But what I realized was, looking through these things, it was like, you know, do you, like, it would ask you, like, often, not often, whatever. But anyway, it would say things like, answer the phone and whatever. I realized, like, how much I have grown through the last couple years. But really what happened was, I got to this point where I wasn't really interacting with a lot of people. You know, I worked for myself. I would always have a partner, but other than that, it was like I wasn't going out and doing a lot of social things. I was terrified of going and doing social things, is what people would say about me and whatever. And, you know, there was a period in my early sobriety where it was basically just my boyfriend and my best friend. We lived together, and that was really the only people that I saw. And then I got my friend Tanya, and I met some other people, and I started getting closer to all these other people. But I really had to work at it. I really had to train myself to say, you know, these people care about me. They're invested in me. It's like I had to convince myself in my head, because I didn't believe that I mattered. I didn't believe that anybody cared about me, you know? And it was really, really hard. And then what happened on top of that was when I met my husband, Alex. So there's been long periods of my life where I've been like eaten very, very healthy and been very active in, you know, exercise. And I ran for many, many years. I ran, you know, 5 to 10 miles a day. And I know it sounds crazy now in retrospect, but I did. And I would love to get back to that, you know. But there were many years that I did that. And what happened was I got with my husband, and then we got married, and I got very comfortable and felt safe in that relationship. And I just started putting on pounds and more pounds and more pounds. And what happened was that social anxiety, that fear I had of what people would think about me or what they would say about me, or, you know, all of that, like, compounded with me feeling overweight on top of that, and being so self-conscious and so embarrassed and so ashamed, came together to the point where I didn't want to go to anything, and I stopped going to anything. There became a time when, you know, I would go to a birthday party, but then I would skip the next 3 things, or I would go to this and whatever, or baby shower or whatever. And then I started saying no to everything. And it kind of came to a precipice where, but I wasn't saying that I had social anxiety. I wasn't telling people that I was afraid. I was just saying, no, I can't come. I don't want to go, you know, whatever. And it came to a point when my husband and I were going to something, and he said, if you don't want to go, that's your business, but I'm not going to make excuses for you anymore, and you have to call them and let them know, because they really care about you and they really want you there. And what I really realized was I was allowing this fear and this anxiety to stand in the way of me living. And in that moment, I was like, I can't continue to do this. Like, I have to start showing up to life. I have to get through my fear. And it was around the time that my friend Erin, she has a Halloween party every year, and my friend Melissa said, you know, she really wants you to be there. And I'm realizing I'm not friendless. I do have people that care about me, you know? Whereas I felt like I had no friends. Like, I have no friends. I have nobody that cares about me. And what I realized was I did have people that cared about me, but I wasn't telling them what I was going through. I wasn't being honest about how scary that was for me. And, you know, and so Melissa was one of the first people that I ever talked to, and she was so comforting and kind to me and said, I never knew, Peter, that that's what you were going through. And then I talked to my friend Erin, and, you know, I went to that party, and I got there early so I could stand in the kitchen with my back against the wall because I felt safe. That way I could see everything coming in. I know this sounds strange, but that's the way that I think. And so I stood with my back against, I mean, I've had to like work myself up to go into things, like to tell myself, nobody's going to talk about you. Everything's going to be fine. You're going to have a good time. You look fine. Don't worry about it, on and on and on, so that I can get myself to the point where I feel confident enough to walk through that door. To walk through the front door of a party, to walk into a place I've never been before, to meet new people is so terrifyingly scary to me. Like, people ask, why will you not do a meetup? It's terrifying to me to have a meetup, honestly. I'm sure everybody would be fantastic. And when people meet me in person, they're like, you're so personable, you're so friendly. I've really had to work at getting to that point, and it's been so hard, but I feel like I'm getting to a good point today, you know? And I remember talking to Erin about that Halloween party, and she said, just come whenever you're comfortable. And she said, if you want to come early before the party starts, and I did, and we got there early, and, you know, I talked to my husband, and Alex has been so incredibly supportive, right? But he's like, I want you to be part of my life. Like, I want you to show up to things. So whatever I need to do to make you feel safer. And some of the things I've had to realize is that I can leave whenever I want to leave, which is something that I learned in early recovery. You know, that if I'm done being someplace, I can leave. I don't have to be there anymore. When I feel uncomfortable, I can walk out of the room. I can go somewhere else. I can share with the people that I have in my life. And like I said, I don't have tons of people. But I know that the people that I have in my life, they have my back, and I know that they love me, and I know that they care about me, and I love them, and I care about them too. And I want to have interactions with other people today. I want that in my life. There were so many years of my life that I had no friends, that I had nobody, that I was just absolutely alone, and I was terrified of anything. I was terrified of going to the door if a package was delivered. I was terrified of, you know, answering the phone if I didn't know who the number was, or if I had to call somebody to like book an appointment for a doctor's. I was terrified of that. Mostly I was terrified of going to social situations, you know, and I worked on it in counseling. I worked really hard on it. I just talked about how I felt, and nobody told me, this was what was so important. Nobody told me that it was stupid. My counselor didn't say, that's stupid. No, but none of my friends said it was stupid. None of them said that's not real. None of them said that can't really be how you feel. They all validated how I felt and allowed me to have my feelings. But what I realized was, if I started to feel that way, I had to be honest with people and say, I'm feeling really anxious today. I'm really scared. I'm feeling embarrassed. I'm terrified of doing this. Hold my hand and walk me through this. And they did, you know? And they did. And I'm not alone today. And I was taking this test last night, and it was funny because I was looking at these things. Like I said, I wish I could pull it up. Let me try to see it again. Hold on a second. But when I pulled it up, it was like the things that it said. The things that it said were like, hold on a second. Here it is. Oh, I think I found it. 3-minute assessment, it says. I mean, and it says on here, you have to agree that it's not, that you realize this is not like a psychological test. I knew it wasn't, but I just wanted to see the things that it said on here. It has all kinds of tests on here, from everything from all kinds of things, from male sexual dysfunction to hoarding disorder to all things. But it has on here social anxiety disorder. And so I took this test, and I just want to kind of go through some of these things with you, because these were things that I definitely felt, but they have changed over time, and that is what is so incredible. Meeting someone new for the first time. You know, I would used to say always avoid, and now I said sometimes avoid. Public speaking, I used to be terrified of it. I'm still scared of it, but I don't mind it. And you know, YouTube has really, really helped me with a lot of this too. And so back in the day, I would have said always avoid, and now I said sometimes avoid. Making eye contact with someone you just met. I still pretty much often avoid that. Being tested or assessed. I don't have an issue with that. Using a public restroom while others might see you. That was terrifying to me, and that is based when I was growing up, because bathrooms were the scariest place where there were no teachers, making sure that I wasn't going to be like attacked or bullied. So that was really scary to me, but today I don't have an issue with that. Being the focus of attention of the person everyone is listening to. Which is so funny, like, right? Because I have 6 channels today, and people are like, oh, you're so narcissistic, you have 6 channels. Listen, I don't like birthday parties that are focused on me. I still to this day don't like that. You know, I don't like anything for there to be a focus on me at all. It makes me very, very nervous. So I still say today, often avoid. But anyway, speaking to a teacher, manager, or someone in authority, that was something that I didn't like to do either, you know? Some of these on here were very interesting. So, expressing a difference of opinion with someone you just met. I was like, that's interesting, because I would never have done that. I would never challenge somebody, you know? Speaking to someone you don't know on the phone. I hated that. Taking unwanted purchases back to the store. This was such an interesting one to me that it was on this test, because it's literally something that I haven't started to do until just recently. Like, I mean, really in the last year or two, that people in my vlog even notice this. Like, I don't like to take things back. Like, I don't know what that's about, but it's so uncomfortable for me. And I wonder what they're thinking and why I'm taking it back and all this kind of stuff. I don't like it. Situations where someone might try to sell you something. Here's another one that I thought was interesting that's on there. Like, I never will engage in that. Speaking in person with someone new. I don't mind it. Like, I've gotten to a point where I'm more comfortable with it, but I'm not as comfortable, I think, as most people are. Making calls in public or where other people can hear you. I don't like to be on my phone where other people can hear me at all, period. Like, I wonder what they're thinking or what they're hearing. Raise a point or ask a question in a work meeting or in class. Socializing with others where alcohol is present. I thought that was interesting, actually. Writing or typing while others are watching you. I don't like people watching me really do anything. And that's, interestingly enough, even kind of my husband. Like, when I'm making videos, like if he sits on the couch, like, it makes me very nervous. Shared meals in a gathering or group. This is something that used to bother me, but I have worked through this. This is something that I actually enjoy today, is being with people and going out to dinner. Being the last to walk in a room or entering a room after a meeting has started. Like I said, I hate this day, and in recovery, it's hard, you know, like, so to walk into a meeting of people that I don't know. Joining in team or group activities, I've always been bad at that. I'd rather just do it by myself. Appearing in a play or musical performance. Like, I mean, that's always been kind of a dream of mine, and there were moments as a kid where I did some of that. But, like, I had to trust that group and that process first before I would engage in that, you know? Meeting new people that you might want to date, that was really hard for me, always. Completing tasks where others are watching you. Arranging gatherings with friends or family, attending gatherings with friends or family, and then you can go to the results. Here's the thing, like, a lot of these things where I say, like, I'm really, like, it's makes me nervous as to what other people think about me, or it makes me embarrassed, or, like, whatever. I know that from the outsider looking in, that's probably, like, why do you care what people think, you know? And to be honest with you, like, deep down, after all the work that I've done in recovery and in counseling, I don't really care what most people think. I care what some people think in my life. I care about my husband and my close friend and my family and my sponsor, what those people think about me. But other than that, like, what people think about what I have to, what I'm wearing today, or I don't care about that. But I've actually done tons and tons of work on this to get to the point where I feel confident enough today to say, I don't care about that as much, right? But still, with every new experience, meeting new people, there's always that inside of me that's like, that's scary, you know? And unless you experience it yourself, you would rather not have any friends than have to go. This is how I have felt. I would rather have not had any friends than have to go through the fear and the trepidation of what it would cost to get there. And it's really, to be honest, I'm trying to help the person out there that has this and say, you are not alone. And what you're experiencing of never wanting to leave your house and just stay there, and I'm a loner and I like to be by myself and whatever, you're not alone in that. There's a lot of us out there that are experiencing that, and don't ever let anybody tell you that you're crazy or that you're wrong or there's something wrong with you for feeling that way. What you're feeling is your feelings, and don't ever let anybody invalidate that. But then if I can give you some advice based on my own experience, please also don't allow it to let it stop you from living the best life that you possibly can live. I want to be around people. I want people in my life today. I don't want the fear of people and what they might think or might say stop me from having the best life that I possibly can have. I want people in my life today. It's just scary sometimes. Anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed that video. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.